And away we go. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Wherever you happen to be in the world today, welcome one and all to Coffee Talk. That is right. It is time once again for a discussion about what is going on in the world today, where we will be taking a look at what is happening in the news and having a little bit of informal discussion, as it were, as snarkily and sarcastically as possible, because I can't help myself. It's all so ridiculous. And of course, you can find the live portion on YouTube Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on at Coffee Talk Live and at Prep University, simultaneously broadcasting, as well as at Coffee Talk Chat on X, formerly known as Twitter, and fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon as we get ready to jump off here. And of course, I do try to read through as many of the comments in the live portion as possible so that people that are listening and not able to see can keep up. And I'll go ahead and acknowledge some of the people that have chimed in today. I see Helter is here, as well as H12, Brian, Dragon, Boogers is here, Fluke Man jumped in to say hello. Glad you all could make it. Sean is here from Northern Illinois. Hopefully everything is going well there. I know you're probably mired in taxes and getting worse all the time. As we get ready to, again, jump off into the news and take a look at what is going on in the world today, the realm of the ridiculous, as it were, because you have to wonder if half of it's being made up. It's so foolish. So much of it is so foolish. And hey, indeed, a lot of it could be getting made up. And you can't trust everything you see or read anymore. We do the best we can, and that's all you can do as we get ready to jump into a New York Post article. And this has become one of my pet peeves in recent years. One of my pet peeves in recent years is, or recent months, since it only just really started since the protests after the incident on October 7th, where everybody claims to be having a hunger strike now. And these people clearly have no understanding what a hunger strike actually is. An unknown knows says endeavor to persevere. And Flukeman says Trump visited New Jersey. Up to 100,000 people attended to show support in a blue state. If Democrats win the election, there's going to be a riot. Yeah, I heard that. I heard he did pretty well in New Jersey. And H12 says they're going to be coloring their hair. Just don't dye it purple. And Tony is here. Says everything outside of the U.S. is just a distraction. And New York is here as well. So here we go. More hunger strikes. Princeton princess, they call it. This is the New York Post again. Whines that she's starving and blames university after choosing to go on anti-Israel hunger strike. Anti-Israel protester at Princeton University sounded off about how she was starving during her self-imposed hunger strike and accused the prestigious university of purposefully, physically weakening its students. So they made you hunger strike? Did I miss something? Video shows the woman and other female protesters rallying into a megaphone, or railing into a megaphone, I should say, about the New Jersey Ivy League school's refusal to divest from Israel following Hamas's unprovoked attack on the Jewish state on October 7th. Quote, "This is absolutely unfair. My peers and I, we are starving. We are physically exhausted. I am quite literally shaking right now, as you can see," the protester says into the megaphone in a widely shared video. A student-led hunger strike began Friday. That's it? Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So we're into the fourth day here. It'll be the fourth day this evening, I guess. A student-led, you already know, guys. You know how I feel about this. A student-led hunger strike began Friday with protesters demanding the school meet with them to discuss divestment and drop the criminal and disciplinary charges against students who were arrested for erecting tents and 13 other peers who were arrested for trespassing uh, at an academic hall last month. Princeton's student newspaper, the Daily Princetonian, reported. Yeah, that girl looks like she could stand to fast for a few more days, actually, looking at the picture here, as well as some of these other people. But after after meeting with administrators on Monday, students indicated they have no intention of halting their protest, which has left them immunocompromised. Quote, immunocompromised, according to the female protester whose rally cry has gone viral online. We are both hot and cold at the same time. We are all immunocompromised, and based on the university's meeting yesterday with some of our bargaining team, there's no bargaining. The university is a dictatorship. They would love to continue physically weakening us because they can't stand to say no to unjust murder. Oh my God. Is this person wearing Crocs? I hate when I see people in Crocs. Despite the complaints, the woman in the video concedes that going on a hunger strike was her choice. Quote, I will say I truly do not feel like I'm doing anything special. You're right, you're not. This is my choice. I would not spend my birthday doing anything other than being here, she said. Oh, she had to throw that it's her birthday in there so you feel sorry for her. You see the sign here. This is the sign that's out where they're hanging out during the day. Hunger strike for Palestine. You see? And they've made a huge mess on the lawn here with all their garbage. Is it really a hunger strike, or is this another fast where they're gonna, I'm on a hunger strike for 5 days, man. You're starving. You're literally starving. Friday. You started on freaking Friday. Quote, no matter how physically weak we may be, united we have never been stronger, she added as the crowd began to chant. The people united will never be defeated. Yeah. Tell that to all the people that protested during the Vietnam War. According to the student newspaper, at least 15 students were taking part in the hunger strike Sunday night. School president Christopher Eisengruber, graduate school dean Rodney Priestley, and Amanda Jamal, dean of the School of Public and International Affairs, told students in an email Tuesday that administrators were working with protesters. Yeah, sure. You started Friday. You're not starving, sweetheart. Okay, you're fine. You're fine. That hardly counts. Tony says, I'm sure she could stand to lose a few pounds to port them to Gaza and see how that works. And Flukeman says students should have watched Prepper University's videos to learn something useful like preparations. Yeah, watch Prepper University. Please do. Dragon says they won't starve themselves. They'll be ravenously seeking food soon. And if they do starve themselves, natural selection will pick them off. You know, it's been Friday, sometime Friday afternoon, apparently they started this, or Friday evening. It hasn't even technically been 4 days. When you've gone 6 to 8 weeks without eating, then you can kind of start talking about starving. The human body is extremely resilient when it comes to not eating. We're just accustomed to eating 3 or more times a day, most people. We've grown very accustomed to that in the Western world. Okay. And you get that pang, is what they call it, a hunger pang, not pain, pang. And you know, that suction that you feel in your stomach sometimes, and it's annoying because it's like, okay, it's time to eat, right? Time to eat, right? You don't necessarily need to eat, but you feel like you should. And after you've gone a couple of days without eating, and I've been there with this, you know, I've been on fasts before, and I've been in other circumstances where I had no access to food before. After a couple of days, when that pang, it will subside, it'll give up, and then you're fine for days, weeks even. You'd be surprised. You feel fine, and you're not weak, and you're not shaking. That's all drama. It's all drama and bullshit. If they even are on a hunger strike and they're not going back to their dorm rooms and eating, we have no way of knowing. I don't trust these people. They're going to sit there and cry about it. Oh, the Princeton is trying to wear us down. They want us to be weak. Yeah, you were already weak. That's why you're here. Oh my God. Helter says, they cry, we will not stop, we will not rest, but after a couple of days, they will cry like 2-year-olds. They're already crying. They're already crying. Monkey says, yet these people that do these protests are the same cares about the environment and trash it all at the same time. Yeah, they claim to care about it. And I see Chillin' Dave is here. Glad you could make it today. And Unknown Nose says, I identify as starving. There you go. That's what it is. They identify as starving. They're not really starving. They don't know what starving actually is because they've never been a day in their lives, very likely, without at least one meal. So they don't know what that actually even would feel like. Like I said, go 6 to 8 weeks without eating, then you might start to notice something. As I stated, the human body is extremely resilient when it comes to food. Stars Wake says hunger strike. Yeah, right. Of course. And Chillin says a question: why are schools hiring fools to teach the youngins? Because they're not trying to educate them in ways that will benefit them in life. They're trying to educate them in ways that will manipulate them in life. This is social programming is what goes on in public schools and also now goes on in these colleges and universities. They're not learning about the world. They're not learning about practical things that will serve them well. As I've gone on and on about in many instances, the practical application classes that we did, the life courses and things when I worked for the Juvenile Justice Authority, dealing with teenagers that can't count money, don't know how to sweep a floor, don't know how to operate a washing machine, can't fill out a job application, on and on and on. But they get 3.8 and 4.0 GPAs and they're ready to graduate from high school. They learn nothing useful, no skills, no life skills, can't operate a manual can opener. But yeah, you're going to graduate with a 4.0 and everything's peachy. And Brian says they can't go on a hunger strike because they're a glutton. Booger says if a student goes on a hunger strike, the university needs to back it by screwing the cupboard shut, chaining the fridge closed, and preventing them from eating on campus. And Chillin says no science, no math, no languages. Yeah. And Fluke Man goes on, they have no idea Palestine's laughing at them. They'll stab you in the back once your usefulness is exhausted. Indeed. Absolutely. But it's just a joke to me. That's I laugh at that. I really do. I laugh at it. That's not a hunger strike. Every hunger strike I've seen thus far has turned out to be a fast. Oh, we're hunger striking for 3 days. That's not a hunger strike. It's not a hunger strike. Again, a hunger strike, you better not eat for like a month and then pass out and wake up in the hospital with an IV. And they're like, you can't do this to yourself. We need you to talk to the counselor. That's a hunger strike, maybe. Okay. Not, oh, I'm not going to eat for 4 days because I'm protesting like Gaza and stuff. Like, you know what I'm saying? An unknown calls them useful idiots. Exactly. And Tony says the programming is a form of Russian mind control, seeds planted, started back in the 1980s. I know. Earlier than that, even. But yeah, it starts with public school. Public school, of course, being the most socialized function in America because it's completely operated by the government. And you see how well that works. Well, anytime anybody wants social anything with complete government control, look at the public school system and see what a failure it is. Everyone who ever attended public school knows it's a failure. All right, simple as that. I don't know why they keep expecting it to work or be any better. And before we get on to the next article, which kind of ties in with this, New York says that's what's wrong with education these days. Kids aren't taught life skills. No. Remember when home economics was a thing? Remember when they had first aid in classes? Anything useful that you could use in real life, anything, so that you could be productive, even for yourself, never mind society, so that you could take care of yourself. Now, we don't have that anymore. None of that. None of that. And these same people, these same types of people do things like this. Next article, also New York Post. Jewish moms outraged as anti-Israel protesters are yelling at New York school, telling their kids that their parents were complicit in genocide. So essentially, protesters blocking schools and belittling and berating Jewish students. Jewish mother left stunned after anti-Israel protesters shut down the road near her children's upstate New York elementary school and shouted at the kids that their parents were complicit in genocide and that they were baby killers. Bryce Gruber of Woodstock said she had trouble coming up with the answer for her kids about the things they heard when dozens of protesters descended on the small town on Tuesday to target the Ametek Rotron Defense Manufacturing Company, which is based down the road from the Woodstock Elementary School. They were screaming at the kids and anyone who tried to get across or get near them. Gruber told the Post on Wednesday, "They told my kids their parents were complicit in genocide and that they were baby killers." Yeah, that's fantastic. Gruber, a mother of 5, shared her encounter with the protesters on Instagram, revealing the elementary school did not allow the students outside for retest on account of the protests. While Gruber was in disbelief, such a demonstration broke out in her small town of about 6,000 people. What was even more concerning was that her own neighbors came out in support of it. They were cheering them on, shouting, "We love you," Gruber said. "That's the worst part." Wow. Gruber added when she confronted the protesters, a local man had been recording her and her 7-year-old son and 5-year-old daughter, warning them he would upload their images on the Zionist Jew watch list. 7 and 5 years old, a bunch of kids at an elementary school. And you're out there protesting them. Look at these old bums, these old women, and this guy with the kaifa around his neck. You know, these are the same people. You're going to attack children, tell them that their parents are baby killers. You're going to block roads. Don't you have anything better to do? Again, you want to protest? Go to Gaza and do it. See how far you get. The people you think that you're representing will kill you first because they hate you more than who you think your enemy is. And they think you're fools. And that's what Chillin here says. He says, let's pick on the kids, real tough guys. Indeed. You know, scream at little kids. And there's Urban Angst. Glad you could make it today. Flukeman says, if they really care about Palestine, they'd have donated money and or sent supplies to them. But no, because it'll cost them money. But if they were to spend taxpayers' money, they'd do it immediately. Brian, alliterating on what we were talking about earlier, it says, and that is young people today. They can't change oil or tires, but have 4.0 GPAs. They call AAA because of a flat tire. Yeah. And Tony says the guy taking pictures of the kids are a fence watcher, I guess. Or we can call them Aqualung. If you remember how the song Aqualung, watching little kiddies through the fence. And Monkey says these people would be the role model citizens in the 1930s in Germany in ratting out their own people. Exactly. They're little kids. They're little kids. What the hell do they know about anything? What do these parents know about it? They're not in the Middle East. They're about as far removed from what's going on in the Middle East as anyone else out here. And they've got nothing to do with it. That is a Middle East problem. Has been. Forever. Has been as far back as history records. And Doc Galt has joined us here today. Glad you could make it. Says he's late. That's okay. This is what they call a Karen right here. These sad sack women and these other guys protesting children, blocking traffic, blocking children at a school. The school having to lock down and not allow the kids to go to recess because protesters out there are screaming at them that their parents are baby killers. Real brave. Monkey says the real Palestine people should be worried about is those at East Palatine and Ohio with the train wreck. Bet they won't even remember what happened there. No. And also, did Biden ever make it down there? Still, he had announced, we read the article maybe a month and a half ago, I want to say. Just off the top of my head, I could be wrong, but we read the article where he said he's finally going to go down there. I don't know that he has. I do not know that he has. I don't think he has yet. I don't know that he has. And Unknown says, still waiting for those 81 million voters to sail over to Ukraine or Palestine to fight the good fight. Yeah, no kidding. And New York says, Woodstock's a nice little community. What they did to those kids is horrible. It is. And what are you protesting? You're going to march out to that neighborhood? You're going to march out to that neighborhood and interfere with people? What the hell are you doing? What are you doing up there? The division that's growing in this country is unimaginable. And Tony says they're learning from Hamas like Hamas killed children. They did. They did, and they do. And there is no leniency. There is no leniency in the Middle East with that sort of thing. Again, Israel is the most westernized country in the Middle East. Israel, who, because of constant pressure from the United States, from the European Union, from the United Nations, actually informs their opponents before an attack. I'm not kidding. They personally telephone. They have a phone center, calls hospitals and schools to warn them, yeah, we're going to shell in the morning, so you might want to clear out. They drop flyers. Who else does that? No one in the world does that. Oh, yeah, just wanted to let you know, at about 4 p.m. tomorrow, we're going to be attacking such and such district. Yeah, you might want to move out of the way. Tell your people to move. Nobody does that, but they're under that kind of pressure from the whole rest of the world. Nobody does that. No one. And who in the world announces in advance? And they do it because they are extremely westernized and because of pressure from the United States, from the United Nations, and from the European Union constantly. Did Hamas phone anyone in Israel? Hey, watch out tomorrow. Keep an eye on the skies. Parasailers coming in. Urban says grandma's gone totalitarian. Someone should tell her grandkids to do a dementia intervention. Wow. And Chillin says Biden, Harris, Pelosi, finest Democratic leaders in the country, like earning a gold medal at the Special Olympics. Yeah. But speaking of which, something here from Jill Biden, and it fits the narrative because this is what they want. Fox News article. Eventually. Is it going to pop up or are we going to get weird? Here we go. Jill Biden tells Arizona college graduates community colleges should be free in America. We talked about this the other day. We talked about this on Friday, I believe, that there's this growing movement, and it was started by the Transhumanist Party, which is or was at the time led by Zoltan Istvan, who I interviewed once years ago, actually. Zoltan Istvan, who the Transhumanist Party believes that two-year colleges, that is associate's degree colleges, should be free, which is not free, really. But, we'll read the article and we'll get more into that. First Lady Jill Biden called for community college education to be free in America during her commencement address in Arizona to Mesa Community College class of 2024. At the Saturday event in Tempe on Arizona State University's campus, Biden's call was met with cheers. I keep wanting to say Bill Clinton. Hey, it's the same administration. Was met with cheers from those assembled as she further spoke about her own role as an educator at a Virginia community college while her husband served in the White House. On behalf of President Biden, Vice President Harris, and the second gentleman, congratulations, class of 2024. We are so proud of you, Biden said. I teach at a community college for the same reason students go to community college. They're flexible and meet people where they are. And as my husband, President Biden, says, like they don't know who he is, they provide the best career training in America. False. That is not true. Best career training in America comes from vocational schools. Biden praised Mesa Community College's Promise program, which its website describes as a needs-based commitment from the city of Mesa to residents that eligible students can attend the school without paying tuition or registration fees. Community college should be free in America, she said. The First Lady's remarks come as the Biden administration continues to take heat over its machinations to cancel student loan debt, which was rejected again, by the way. His latest proposal has again been thrown out to, I think it was $460 billion he wanted to throw into the student debt. And Sven says, well, most of the degrees are worthless. Yeah, indeed. And as I catch up a couple of more here, Tony says there's no such thing as Palestinians. A son of Hamas leader says there are only tribes of Palestinians and all are terrorists. Yeah, and again, we talked about that a bunch of times here, Tony. Yeah, you can go back and you can actually find the footage of, I forget his name, but the president of Iran in the 1970s who admitted on camera during an interview that all of those people that are in what is currently known as Palestine are refugees from all over the area that they deliberately pushed in that direction to be an agitation to Israel. He admitted it. I think it was 1976 or 1977 he gave that interview. So, I mean, when they're telling you that's what it is, then that's what it is. You know, Egypt and Lebanon and Iran and all those countries created that situation by shoving refugees that way. That's why they said when this all started, you're not crossing our borders. Don't come back, because they don't want them. They never did. And Chillin says they like Jill because she speaks senile gibberish. She has to. It's the only way that Joe will understand her. Brian says, what are those hunger strike ladies say if I call them virtue signalers? What would they say? Oh, they would deny it. But I mean, I'm physically shaking because I'm starving to death because I haven't eaten maybe in 3 days. And Sven says most of the degrees are worthless. I read that. I'm sorry. As we go on here, Helter says, what harm will more education do? It seems that free college has turned out pretty well for other countries. Well, the problem is it's not free. That's ultimately the issue. It's not free because taxpayers are paying for it. The money's got to come from somewhere. So that's taxpayer funded. If all those universities were completely free, two things will happen. One, it'll be taxpayer funded. And two, that means the government will get to dictate what they teach and how. And you see how that's worked out for public education. The public education is a complete joke. It's one of the biggest money pits in the country. People complain about the military industrial complex. I give you the educational industrial complex. It's the biggest money pit in America. And they get money from sources all over the place, coming in constantly, hundreds of billions of dollars. And the students that are graduating are some of the dumbest generation we've ever seen. If they get their hands into 2-year colleges, then they'll get to extend the indoctrination and bullshit for 2 more years. Plus, you'll pay for it. And so will they if at some point they actually get jobs, then their taxes will go to it too. So it's kind of a waste. It's kind of a waste. And Tony says Kuwait kicked out over 300,000 of them, talking about refugees who ended up in Palestine, that is. Helter says, I was being snarky. I forgot to add air quotes. Okay. Well, I mean, it's still, it gave me the opportunity to make the point, and maybe somebody will be listening that never thought about it, Helter. So no harm, no foul there. But there's so many problems with that whole concept. Not only that, but I mean, you've got young people now, and this is part of the problem also. This is part of the issue. you've got all these young people, okay, who are they've been taken care of their whole lives. Okay, they haven't really had to do much. Oh, and Fluke Man says he has to go. Well, thanks for dropping by, Fluke Man. Maybe you can catch it on the rebound. But they've been basically taken care of their entire lives, which is what you do as a parent. But most parents nowadays, they don't have a concept of discipline, so they basically just take care of the kid by granting their needs without having them contribute to anything. So if you don't contribute to anything and everything is handed to you, you don't appreciate it. You'll never appreciate anything. So they've been taken care of their entire lives. Now they're going to school and expect that to happen too. And the problem is, you can only get so many people on the wagon, and eventually you won't have anyone to pull it. And then society's going to completely collapse. And we're getting close. We are getting close. Nature Nerd says schools are failing because of Generation Alpha middle schoolers can't even read, and their parents never taught them how to do anything, and they're detached. I've gone on and on about this, and I've had people get pretty mad at me about some of the things that I've said in regards to parents based on my own experience. My experience as a child with a very abusive parent, my experience with my ex, and my experience with daycare, my experience with the public school system in Kansas, my experience with juvenile justice, even my experience with working for the school bus company, or two companies, actually, Laidlaw and Durham. I worked for both of them. Is that most parents don't know what they're doing and don't really care. Most of them. There are good parents. I'm not saying there are not. Most of them really don't know what they're doing, and they don't care either. But they'll put on a big act because they don't want people to realize that they don't care. That's part of the act. Come here, Uncle. Come here. Oh, buddy. Did I spook you? He came in here to get in the chair, I think, but it's already occupied. As you can see, little girl is sleeping in the chair. Uncle came in the hallway and peeked up, and when he saw her, walked away. But whatever. Anyways, feline entertainment, ladies and gentlemen. They keep me company all day long. But that most parents, so you end up with parents that are basically roommates to these kids. That's how I describe them. They're roommates. The kid gets up, you push them out the door, they go to school, you don't see them all day, you go to work or you don't. Eventually they come home, they go up to their room, maybe you'll see them, maybe you won't. They're playing video games, they're playing on their phone. Nobody sits at the table and has a discussion. And every child, especially if they go to public school, needs to be debriefed every day to find out what kind of garbage was put into their heads. And there's that connection is gone. That nuclear family has almost been completely killed in America. It's almost been completely killed at this point. And the system works against you. For all intents and purposes, the system is the parents now. The public school social workers, they have more power. Your pediatrician, you got to be real careful trusting modern pediatricians. New York says vocational schools actually teach something useful, a trade upon which a future can be built. True. And H12 says, my mom returned me to an orphanage and they made her take me back. Oh no, that's terrible. Urban says they do care, but for some reason they still feel like it's not their problem. Well, some do, Urban. Some do care, some don't, some feel helpless. I'm more inclined to think that most parents don't know what they're doing, and a lot of them just they don't really honestly care. They just have kids, and they have this false sense of obligation based primarily on how other people view them more than anything else, more than what's right or wrong. But like I said, I've seen the worst end of it in most situations. And speaking of which, there's a lot of problems right now. There's commencements going on across the country and in Europe, graduation ceremonies and other things going on at colleges and universities. And many of those colleges and universities are canceling. And they're canceling because of the protesting and because of violence and everything else. And then there's this. And then there's this. You'll love this next article. This is nuts. And Moki has joined us. Glad you could make it today. Thanks for chiming in. And this is a Mirror article, the U.S. Mirror. Another graduation ceremony. It says graduation ceremony has been shut down after riots erupt outside. But it's not what you think. It's not what you think. A graduation ceremony in Washington, D.C. had to be abruptly shut down after a riot formed outside as families denied entry to the proceedings, attempted to force their way in, it should say, but it doesn't say. It didn't complete the sentence. That's bad syntax. The Howard University nursing program's graduation ceremony was held Saturday. Parents and family members of College of Nursing and Allied Health Sciences students crammed into the Camden Auditorium in Washington, D.C. on Thursday. However, several did not enter the venue before the keynote speech prematurely ended the ceremony. Okay, and I'm going to show, there's actually a video clip. I'm going to try to show it, okay? I'm going to try to show this video clip really quickly. Let me see if I can expand this. So, and this is somebody's cell phone, okay? And Nature Nerd says, hand kids iPhones at 2 or 3, terrible way to raise a kid. Absolutely. And that's a huge pet peeve of mine, is seeing a little kid with an electronic device of any kind. They don't need it, and they're not learning anything except how to be further detached from humanity. But watch this clip. If for some reason the audio won't work. Oh, because they're trying to show an advertisement. Hang on a second, folks. I apologize. Get rid of that. Here we go. This is the auditorium.
Hey, bro, let us stand up, man. Nobody want to hear all that capacity stuff, man. People drove here for long places to come here. Ain't nobody care about no. Look, that's your problem.
This is the graduation. Now, while every other college and university is having to shut down because of Palestinian protesters, this one had to shut down because of the families. Now, this is a really interesting article, actually. Let me shrink this down and get back to it. Here's the issue. Because of the size of the room and because our relatives sometimes do not know how to act, the fire department is now here to shut us down, says Dr. Gina S. Brown, Dean of the College of Nursing and Allied Health Services. Okay? Remarked to a resounding boo. These families, and as you may have guessed, this is a predominantly black college. All right? Because you can tell looking at the images. This is a black college. All right. They've had problems in the past, this university. Their auditorium can only hold so many people. And if you go over that, you're out of code. And then the fire marshal is going to show up and shut it down and give the school a big fine. So they have to close the doors. And there's been violence in the past. Now, what happened on Saturday was, after the video clip that you saw where people are chanting, let us in, they smashed down all the glass doors to the college and forced their way in, fighting their way through security guards. So the entire commencement was canceled. So the dean is correct when they say, let me see if I can find it again. Because of the size of the room and because our relatives sometimes do not know how to act, the fire department is here and they've shut us down. Yeah, way to make a demonstration for your children. This is what you're going to teach your kids. You know what? If the code for the room is so many people, then that's the code for the room. That goes for anywhere, a supermarket, Walmart, a nightclub, a football stadium, there's a fire code for each and every one of them. There's a fire code for the damn elevator. You know, you want to see your kid do the walk. I get it. But how much is too much? How much is too much? And Chillin says Greta T is their role model, Asperger's and all. Yeah, she been arrested again and fined, I believe, Greta, because now she's on the Palestinian bandwagon because she thinks that's the next meal ticket. She's no longer viable as a protester on behalf of global warming or whatever the hell, climate change. Her useful idiot days have expired with that. So somebody must have told her that it would be a good idea to jump on for Palestine, and it's not working out very well for her. Dragon says a mix of bad planning on the administration and entitled jackasses not knowing how to act when they're told no. Sounds lovely, exactly. But I mean, there's only so much that it's not a big university. There's only so much they can really accommodate. You know what I mean? And maybe they don't have the ability to do it outdoors. I would try to hold it outdoors, but I don't know how far back the history goes with problems like this here. But I've heard that this is not the first time that this has happened at this college. And Helter says these entitled people believe that safety codes and rules don't apply to them. Their ignorance is full on display. And you heard the one person in that audio clip there who said that's not our problem, that's your problem. Well, the fire code is everybody's problem if the fire department tells you to shut the doors, which is what happened. And Doc says people have no moral code or values anymore. No, they really don't. And Unknown No says these protesters are at day's end authoritarians, yet they refuse to follow laws, codes, and rules themselves. Yeah, rules for thee and not for me. Ultimately, that's what it boils down to. And now you have all these students complaining. They said, I didn't even get to walk. I didn't get to walk. I graduated magna cum laude, and I didn't even get to walk. I'm in the class of 2020, blah, blah, blah. Okay, whatever. A lot of people didn't get to walk, and it's your parents' fault. It was the families of these groups that came out there. Like I said, I don't know why they did it in the auditorium. If I knew there was a potential for something like this, I would try to hold it outdoors so that more people would be able to attend. Although maybe they've tried that before and there's been other forms of violence at this college. And I don't know the entire history of the college, except that, like I said, finding out after this happened Saturday that this is not the first time they've run into problems with families. Way to set an example for your child. I'm going to be violent. I'm going to tear up because I don't want to follow rules. Here we can see, hold on. This clip shows broken doors and the police are here now.
No, they can hear. That's when they're just shouting. Like I said, they can hear now.
Now the auditorium is cleared out and there's a police presence. That's what it results in. I can't get my way, so I'm going to throw a damn tantrum. I'm going to throw a damn tantrum. And I'm a grown person. I'm an adult with children, old enough to be adults themselves, graduating from a college of nursing. And that's a generational curse because ultimately most of those students, often the apple does not fall far from the tree, as they say. Sometimes the apple rolls down the hill and grows somewhere else. That can happen. You can come up in a terrible household and be a good person. Most of the time you end up being a reflection of wherever you grew up, and that's where you get the concept of a generational curse from. Most of those young people graduating from that college are going to be about as bad or worse than their parents. And they're in the nursing profession, bedside manner anyone, I can imagine. Most of the nurses I've ever encountered have been really evil people anyways, honestly. Urban says it's worse than all that. Chinese Cultural Revolution students went nuts and started killing. Same in Cambodia. Children committed some of the worst atrocities. Unbelievable. Very sad. Very sad indeed. And I get, as you know, with all my personal and my personal experience and with my professional experience, you know, those types of generational curse issues are a big pet peeve of mine. It disturbs me greatly. What are you doing? She's not gone. Uncle keeps running to the doorway and looking and then walking away again. He's being silly. And Brian says on Arthur, the PBS, there was the temper tantrum patrol squad, which were cops. Yeah. I don't watch Arthur. I've rarely ever seen an episode of Arthur. I talked about Arthur once and got in trouble with ScrewTube because I asked a question. Some of you might remember a video few years back, like maybe 3 or 4 years ago almost. They had a gay wedding on the show, and I was like, is it appropriate to introduce the concept of sexuality in a children's PBS programming? Because that would have been unheard of in our generation, and I got in a lot of trouble for that video, just asking that question. And Moki sees the cat. Well, you see little girl back there. You don't see Uncle in the doorway. Uncle is out here being silly. And Unknown Nose says they've dealt with 4 nursing homes. 3 were awful. All the employees had certification. Those documents mean nothing to me. No, it's just a piece of paper. An oath or a piece of paper is only as good as the person who personally represents it. If that person has strong ethics and good moral values, then it means everything. If it's just a piece of paper and the oath was just words to get a job, it means nothing. And that's most cases in my experience. Some of the nurses that I've ever dealt with, like I said, they've been horrible, rude and terrible and backstabbing with each other, backstabbing with other staff. And Brian says the first 10 seasons were good, then the show got political. Yeah. That seems to be the case nowadays. Speaking of government solutions, we talked a little bit about this earlier when we discussed the idea. Hi, Dusty. Come here, Dusty. Everybody's staying away from me today. Come here. Dusty doesn't want to come here either. They usually respond to their names pretty easily. When we were talking about like public school being a money pit, and if they take over 2-year colleges, then those operations will be just as worthless as public school. Here's another example of big government screwing things up. Fox News article. And Urban Angst has to go. Well, glad you could make it. Thanks for popping in. Fox News article. San Francisco is now under fire for program that was giving booze to homeless alcoholics. And the article asks, where's the recovery in this? All right. A $5 million pilot program bringing free beer, wine, and vodka shots to San Francisco's homeless alcoholics aims to relieve the city's emergency services. How? But the humanity, as they said when the Hindenburg burned. How does that make sense? I don't even know where to go. But one addict turned recovery advocate says the effort misses the mark and only delays recovery for those who need it. It's not a good idea, not when you consider, and this is a quote, not when you consider the fact that over the last 4 years, San Francisco spent $20 million to basically service a total of a couple of hundred people by giving them free vodka and beer. For that amount of money, we could have funded 60 drug treatment beds instead. Tom Wolfe, founder of the Pacific Alliance for Prevention and Recovery, told Fox and Friends. So this is $5 million a year. It's not $5 million for the pilot program, but it's been $5 million a year for the last 4 years. $20 million giving away free beer and vodka to homeless drunks. Quote, "You really have to ask, where is the recovery in all of this? What is the desired outcome of the program? They say it'll save money, but we just spent $20 million over the last 4 years. You have to really ask, is it saving money and is it making a difference? It is if you want to kill these people and not have to worry about them anymore. The city's managed alcohol program," is that what it's called? The managed alcohol program operated by the Department of Public Health. Folks, you can't make this stuff up. You can't make this stuff up. And focuses on administering limited quantities of alcohol to prevent serious side effects of withdrawal. Oh my God. It's backed by some experts who say it can save lives. Others, like Wolf, meanwhile, insist the taxpayer funds would be better suited for treatment and sobriety programs. Quote, "What also accomplishes that goal is actually drug treatment," he said, of its efficacy. "It may reduce those emergency calls and thereby save money, but again, we're spending $5 million a year to give people free alcohol." That is embarrassingly stupid. Who comes up with this stuff? Who comes up with this stuff? Couple of comments here, I'll catch up. Nature Nerd says community colleges are heavily subsidized by the state, which is why it's cheaper for residents in that state. Prime Mover says must be some top shelf vodka. Who knows? Especially if you're an alcoholic and you're homeless, you'll drink damn near anything. And maybe that's what they think they're trying to prevent. I mean, I've worked with the homeless. You haven't seen anything till you've seen somebody chug a bottle of Old Spice, which I have seen. I've seen somebody guzzle down a bottle of Old Spice because they will drink damn near anything if it's got alcohol in it when they're starting to get the creeps, as they used to call it. I don't know if they still call it that. But, oh my God. This is incredible. And Unknown says California governor is doing what it can to collapse the state so there's speculator puppeteers can buy up entire blocks for pennies on the dollar. And as you well know, Unknown, that's one of my big conspiracy theories, that California, and I believe New York also at this point, are deliberately trying to collapse their states so that they can sell out, so that they can basically new Detroit the state of California, like Omni Consumer Products was trying to buy up the city of Detroit in RoboCop. Helter says San Francisco leftists will often do whatever the worst possible thing would be for a particular issue. They're misusing the taxpayer dollars with this program. No kidding. And Doc says Lord Nuisance, I call him Governor Nuisance, spends money like water on frivolous things like that. And yet these are the people defecating in the streets. And then what? Sven says, I'm certain they cannot learn, wall off the south of California and be done with it. And Nature Nerd says Soviet Union subsidized alcohol, which caused chaos for their society. Cheap alcohol. Yeah, there's a lot of drunks in the Soviet Union. That's true. Dragon says this will just open up the floodgates to an additional level of depravity for the homeless. And Prime Mover says they've seen people drink vanilla extract. Yeah, I haven't seen that, but I did see somebody drink Old Spice. And I saw somebody drink some other aftershave. I don't remember what it was. It was like Aqua Velva or something. It was blue. But yeah, you haven't seen anything until you've seen something like that and how desperate these people can get. Prime Mover says they've seen an alcoholic drink vanilla extract also. He says that. Imagine burping up a vanilla all day. And it's just kill them faster. is all it is. And then they, the villi in their stomach are so corrupted that they can't eat or digest normal food anymore, which is where the term soup kitchen comes from, because they have to give them watered down food or else they'll puke it up. But geez, I mean, this is like the most boneheaded thing I've seen in a while. Talk about stupid. $5 million a year for free alcohol. It says the outlet also said the city's public health department claims to have found a drop in emergency room visits as well as reduced hospital stays and emergency calls as a result of the program. Yeah, but there's other ways that you could reduce that as well. And, Wolf, the advocate here, is also wrong, because those programs that he's talking about, recovery centers and, beds in the shelter and stuff, only works if people are willing to go. You can force people into detox programs, but they're only going to go through the motions until they can get out and end up right back where they started. They're going to end up right back where they started, because ultimately that's the goal, to get through the recovery program and get back out there and get their heroin or get their crack or get their alcohol or whatever it is they're addicted to and start all over again. It's not until the individual knows, or the individual reaches a point of no return where they sit there and they say, wow, I suddenly hate this. I don't want to live like this anymore. And often end up going cold turkey, and very successfully, despite the fact that that's a painful experience for people. Very uncomfortable, very painful experience. But that's when the bulb comes on. They have that epiphany and say, I don't want to be like this anymore. For those who do. And for others, they're forced into programs, and the programs don't hold on to them long enough to force them to completely go cold turkey, or to completely help them escape from that lifestyle. Because you would have to, they'd have to lock you up for a couple of years to completely break you of that. No one's going to pay for that. The insurance companies sure as hell aren't going to pay for it. Nobody's going to pay for that, because, and again, we talked about this at length. When I used to work with rehabs and stuff like that, especially with the Juvenile Justice Authority, they graduate people out that they know aren't ready because the insurance company won't pay anymore. And the reason the insurance company won't pay is because they know that the programs don't work. So why should we keep being forced to pay for it while we pretend it's a disease? When I was in college and I studied that stuff, when I was getting my early childhood development and everything, we had addiction programs that we took, and the textbooks told you that they just tell people that, tell parents and tell family that it's a disease to keep them from rejecting the family member completely. But there's nothing to justify that it's a disease. Sven says their heart breaks for all the ill people in America. They're told it's normal and it all gets worse. No kidding. And Unknown Nose says they knew someone who was a head nurse at a fancy rehab clinic. Quit ain't easy. If so, couldn't companies that need work sign up with a guild, and part-time workers sign up for shifts there? Good way to solve homelessness too. What, hire people that need rehab? If you can trust them. Because you remember, some of these people will do damn near anything. They will do anything. They'll beg, borrow, steal, and kill to get their fix. They can be extremely dangerous. Unfortunately. But, again, it just fits in. The last article fits in with my whole conspiracy theory about California lawmakers in the first place. I think, foil hat time. I think they're deliberately trying to undermine the state so that the real estate values are so cheap that these tech billionaires that have been buying up land can get it cheap and build their little utopian cities, their gnome projects in America, like what they're trying to do in Saudi Arabia. They're selling their own out. They're selling out their people. They're selling out their constituents. And there's some kind of shady backdoor deal that they made for whatever, for money, for power, for re-election, for donations, whatever or however it is. I think they sold them out, and I think it's happening in New York too, really. But with that, we are at the top of the hour, so we're going to go ahead and start signing off. Again, you are listening to and or watching Coffee Talk, and you can find the live portion Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, and the monikers for that are at Coffee Talk Chat or Live, at Coffee Talk Live, and at Prepper University, as well as X, formerly known as Twitter, and that is at Coffee Talk Chat. Also, fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. So thanks again to everybody who was able to join us here today. Hope you got something out of the conversation. And we will see you again